Hi, everyone. Thank you so much for coming tonight. Tonight, we are going to be continuing working with buyers, and the items that we're going to cover tonight is setting up a new file and transaction desk. And then, because we are going to have a little bit of extra time, I want to show you how to transfer information from the MLS so that it auto-populates into your transaction that you create in Transaction Desk. It saves a lot of time, and any little bit of amount of time when typing contracts is always very welcomed in our industry. So let's go ahead and get started. If you do not know how to log into Transaction Desk, you would go to your Flex MLS. Hopefully you have it saved up here on your favorites bar. If you don't, if you click on Menu, scroll down to Products, and see Transaction Desk, you can just click on it from here. If you go over here and you click on like this little star right here, that will highlight it yellow, which makes it a favorite. So the next time you do log into MLS, it'll be up here on your favorites tab. So I've already logged in, but let's go ahead and just click on it. It'll take you straight to Transaction Desk if you're already logged in. Otherwise, it'll prompt you to log in. If you've never logged into Transaction Desk before, the first time you log in, it'll be your NRDS number, which you would have been given when you first signed up with WeServe. If you do not remember what that is, if you come back here to MLS, scroll all the way to the top right-hand corner, click on your initials, go down to My Profile. Your NRDS number is going to be right here. The password the first time you log in is going to be your last name. Then it will prompt you to set up another password that you would save, and always make sure that you keep a list, whether it's on your phone under the notes icon or just somewhere, of all of your passwords, because we know that we have a ton of them to remember. So now that you've logged into Transaction Desk, the first screen that you're going to see is your agent dashboard. So how do you create a new transaction? It's very easy. Just come over here to the top left corner, click on Create Transaction, and then you're going to name your transaction. Every transaction should have its own name. And the best way that I have learned to do that is to name it by the address for the property that you're working on. So for training purposes, I'm just going to go ahead and put my address in. I can type. You put the city, state, and the zip code. And the reason why is because you will need that information later. So just having it typed out fully helps in the long run. In a previous class, we set up your buyer template. So I am going to choose my buyer template. That will pull the template that we created into this transaction. Again, saves you a lot of time. You don't have to go and try to find all the forms that you might need. It automatically puts it in there for you. So one way to transfer information from the MLS into Transaction Desk is you can import the data by choosing Armless. If you're part of Southern Arizona, which is Tucson, Prescott, Southeast Arizona, I don't remember which association that is. I think that might be, I think these might be similar. But anyways, I just joined Tucson, so I'm not 100% sure. And then White Mountains. So you just choose the MLS that you're working in, and for most agents, it's going to be here in the Valley, so Armless. And then you would enter in the MLS number. As long as the home has sold since the MLS was created, the MLS will have record of it. So just search for the address of the home that your client is purchasing, East Wyatt Way. And right here is the MLS number. So if you, I want to copy the link, I just want to copy it. Oh, here's another way. There we go. Let's copy that. copy that number, come back to the transaction desk, and then paste that there. That is going to pull all the data from the MLS over into transaction desk. You can add you as a buyer's agent, and you can definitely use the wizard option if you're not familiar how transaction desk works. I don't like that option, so I'm going to uncheck that, and I'm not going to have them choose me as either agent because for some reason it always duplicates it. Now I don't know if it's going to allow this number here because there's a little bit of a gap, but let's see. Looks like it did. So because I did it that way, all of this information pulled from the MLS. Some of it you need, some of it you don't. Like this information down here, I don't really care what they bought it for because that's not what my client's going to pay for it. I don't need to know when it was listed, that kind of stuff, but just know that it will populate some information that you don't know, but the information that you do need is going to be over in the forms section. And because I chose that template, all of these forms auto-populated because it was in my template. Now I'm going to click on the residential purchase contract because I want to show you the important data that was transferred from the MLS. And that is the legal description, the assessor's number. Now I did notice that most of the time when you transfer data from the MLS this way, it doesn't always bring the full legal description, which is not necessarily incorrect, but you at least need to double check to make sure that the abbreviated legal description transferred over and that it is correct. So what you need to do is you need to come back to the MLS, go to the monsoon, which is the tax records, and then you scroll down and you need to copy and paste that on the document because it does need to be the full or abbreviated legal description. The other thing that I would just double check because we're here is the assessor's number. So 304-51442. Go back to the tax records up here at the top, 304-51442. That is correct. Everything else really doesn't matter. Like the seller, you're going to have to update. The purchase price, of course, you're going to have to update. All of this stuff, you're going to have to update. So the reason why I wanted to show you this way to transfer the data over is because I do want you to know that it is going to auto-populate incorrect information. So this is not my favorite way to import data from the MLS, but it is one of the ways. So use it if you want, but just know that you're going to have to remove a lot of information. So now I'm going to show you the other way to transfer the MLS data over. So I'm just going to come back to my agent dashboard, which to get back, you just come up here to the little speedometer button. Let's create another transaction. And let's do my neighbor's house. Oops. 8. Open so that I'm consistent. Let's do the full address, working with the buyer. I'm not going to import data. Actually, scratch this, sorry. Got ahead of myself. The other way to transfer information from the MLS, sorry to confuse you, is to find the listing, which we did, or the house that we're buying. Let's say this was active. If you come to the listing, this little blue button under the price next to the listing number, if you click on that little arrow and then click on transaction desk, it's going to take this info and open a transaction for you in Transaction Desk. Now you do have to already be logged into Transaction Desk for it to work properly. So just make sure that you log into Transaction Desk before you do this option. Scroll down, make sure it did it right. Come over here to Forms. Oh, I hope it did it right. Oh, it's because it's closed. Okay, let's go back. Let's find an active listing. Sorry, bear with me. It's been a while since I've taught this class. Let me find an active listing in Santan Ranch. Okay, here's one. Okay, so here's our listing. This is what it'll look like when you log in. So 3555. Okay. So you're on the data information sheet. Go over here to the left side blue arrow, then click on Transaction Desk. So now, because it's an active transaction, sorry, it didn't do it because it was closed. So now I know for future training, it won't do it the correct way. So this is the correct way. So it'll pull the address. You can finish it if you want. 85297. You want to choose your buyer template. It is pulling the information from the arm list this way. Either uncheck the wizard, create. So it's going to pull the current information because it's not a closed contract. It's an active one. So it'll put the list price here for you, but I don't believe it puts it on the contract. So let's go see if it does, because it shouldn't. Unless they've done some updates. Yep. Okay, perfect. So it did auto-populate the full legal description. It did not add the price, and it didn't put any of this information. So that's the way that I typically transfer the information from the MLS into Transaction Desk, because it does do it accurately, or more accurate. You should always double check your legal description and your assessor's number up here. But you can do it either way, but just know that if you do it the first way I showed you, while it's not incorrect, you just have to double check it a lot more, just because it typically doesn't pull all the information or the accurate information, and then you just have to change a lot. That's pretty much it. It's really easy to create a transaction in Transaction Desk. So what you can do is you can play around and you can create as many test transactions as you want, because you can't really do anything wrong here. Once you're in the transaction, if you want to delete it, you just click on the transaction, come up here to the top, 3 little buttons, and then delete the transaction. So you can definitely play around with it. You can make sure that it's populating the right information, that kind of stuff if you want to. Again, you can't really do anything wrong in here. It's just more for you. Now, once you start emailing documents out to clients, like, yeah, you can make errors there. So you don't want to start emailing it to anybody unless it's like maybe a family member that you're just practicing with, or me. Like, feel free to email me fake contracts and be like, hey, Tina, I'm just practicing. Can you take a look at this? How did I do? Do you have any feedback for me? That kind of stuff. And we will do some mock contracts coming up here soon because I do want you to get some fake practice on writing the contracts, because once you get in the habit of actually writing them, it does help a lot. So, based on tonight's material, do you have any questions? Do you have any questions on how you create a transaction, or any questions on the 2 ways to import data from the MLS? Perfect. Okay, so tonight was a really short class, but if you have any questions, please do not hesitate to ask. And I do apologize, I completely forgot that if it's a closed transaction, it doesn't populate or it doesn't create a transaction automatically. It kind of did, but it didn't create a working with buyer transaction because it was closed. So it did create a seller transaction. I don't know if you noticed that. So it did do that, but we cannot use someone's we can't really use somebody else's MLS info unless we've created it. Not that you couldn't just open a file, but it's just easier just to create a new one. So, anyways, um, you just also real quick, you would create a seller transaction the same way that you did a buyer transaction. The only difference is instead of my buyer template, I would use my listing template. Everything else is the same. And if you did not come to the class that went over how to set up your buyer template, which we did last week, you can visit my YouTube channel at Tina Nerland to look at the video on how to set up your buyer template. And it should be uploaded. And if it's not, it should be uploaded tonight. So if you don't have any questions, have a great night, and I will see you next week. Have a great evening.